One of the greatest musical minds of recorded history is a man that lived 200 years ago, and his name was Ludwig van Beethoven. His name was Van Beethoven, V-A-N. But Ludwig van Beethoven would often be misidentified as Ludwig von Beethoven by people in his era. The surname prefix van was very common. It was of Dutch origin and had no connection to nobility for the most part. The surname prefix von, V-O-N, became common starting in the Middle Ages, and it was a name that meant from and could be awarded to someone of nobility in the Middle Ages, and this carried on through the classical and romantic eras. Von was a signifier of nobility. If you had a von in your name in German society, it often indicated that you were from a noble family or your family had noble origins. Beethoven never called himself Ludwig von. He never wrote it. He never officially implied that he was nobility. He wasn't nobility. He was a commoner. But lots of people did misspeak or miswrite his name as von. And Beethoven notably never corrected them. He was always very eager to not correct them. I think there are some parallels in this situation. By the time I upload this video tonight, I'm sure there's dozens of videos in the vinyl community, in the audio community online, talking about the news that broke today with Mike Esposito's The In-Grooves video visiting Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. If you're watching this, I'm sure you've heard. I will give a very brief summary, but go watch the video with Mike at Mobile Fidelity and watch the video with Michael 45 RPM audiophile and Michael Fremer that followed immediately after it. And that will kind of get you up to speed on the situation. Essentially, it has come out through the grapevine, and it was broke by Michael 45 RPM audiophile and by Mike Esposito at the In-Groove. They were the ones that built the public pressure to get Mobile Fidelity to reveal what was really going on. And what was really going on is we now find out that every Mobile Fidelity release, at least for the last 10 years on vinyl, has been cut from DSD files. There are a few different conversations around this revelation that we need to talk about. The primary one is around sound quality. Mobile Fidelity have produced very good sounding records in the last 15 years. The vast majority of Mobile Fidelity releases have been reference quality. Not all of them, but many of them have been reference quality, and I've enjoyed them and I've enjoyed collecting them quite a bit. They sound really good. The people doing the mastering work at Mobile Fidelity, it's clear they are expert mastering engineers, they are expert cutting engineers, and they really care about producing some of the best sounding records out there. And it's clear that that's what they have been focusing on, that's what they have been doing. Whether or not you make a vinyl record from a digital file, or whether you make it from an original analog cutting source, both of those methods, it's possible to make a good sounding record. It is more difficult to cut all analog and have your entire mastering chain be all analog. It's very expensive, it requires special equipment, it requires access to tapes that's getting harder and harder to achieve, but there are labels out there that do it. Analog Productions has been very transparent about what their sources are, what equipment they're using. I've seen pictures and videos of them cutting masters. That's a company that's very upfront and says, we always cut this way, and if we can't, if it's not available, or it was a digital recording or something like that, they tell you right up front. Music Matters is a label that always did that. Blue Note Tone Poet is a label that's continuing to do that. And there are other releases out there and other small labels, Sam Records, that are really upfront about this. Mobile Fidelity always felt like a bit of a mystery in that everything was kind of behind lock and key. I didn't see a lot of interviews with Mobile Fidelity mastering engineers. I didn't see into their studio. There was no YouTube videos out there of people visiting the facility. it was always kind of hush-hush. Part of that kind of aided the mystique of the label, I think. But this revelation about the cuts being from digital, from DSD, which in my opinion, DSD is very good. I mean, I've talked on this channel about how good I think SACDs can get to analog. And I've praised a lot of digital recordings, digital records on this channel. In my last video, I talked about how good this Bob Ludwig remastered Elton John Goodbye Yellow Brick Road sounds. I talked about how much it sounds so much better than my original US pressing. So I am not anti-digital. However, this revelation, this kind of controversy raises a question about what Mobile Fidelity was doing advertising-wise, how they were portraying their product, and how they were marketing themselves. And I think we have to ask, were they being dishonest? I think if you watch that video with Mike Esposito, you do notice they want to have a casual conversation. They don't want to answer hard questions. When Mike asks direct questions, they kind of dance around it. There was a lot of looking at each other in that video. And on the other hand, I do kind of feel for these mastering engineers because publicity is not their job. Mobile Fidelity are owned by Music Direct. They have been since, I think, the late 90s. You know, Mobile Fidelity is run by Jim Davis, who's the president of Music Direct. And Music Direct handle all the publicity, all the organization of Mobile Fidelity is a body. These guys are just mastering engineers. It's not their job to do publicity for this label. And quite honestly, I don't know what Music Direct was thinking. And quite frankly, I'm kind of shocked that Music Direct would kind of let this heat fall on these mastering engineers and not put out a statement directly. I don't know what's going on over there. Something is up. But this controversy has led to a lot of arguing back and forth online about whether or not Mobile Fidelity were actually lying or being misleading, which is maybe one step down from lying, or if everyone was just making a lot of assumptions. When I heard this announcement, I seem to remember, well, wait, don't Mobile Fidelity actually say that they cut directly from the original analog tapes? I was like, am I going crazy? I remember reading this before. And through the past 2 days, I've been going through my records, the MoFis that I have here. Not all my MoFis are here at this location. And I've been looking through the back jackets and the inner sleeves and all the promotional materials and all that. And I've been looking at the articles on Mobile Fidelity. And I've kind of noticed something interesting. So I kind of hunted around the internet. Mobile Fidelity advertise all their recent records, all their records of the last 10 years or so, is using the Gain 2 Ultra Analog system. Now, I found online a description, the best description I could find of this Gain 2 Ultra Analog system. The Gain 2 Ultra Analog system is comprised of a Studer tape machine with customized reproduction electronics and handcrafted cutting amps that drive an Ortofon cutting head on a restored Neumann VMS 70 lathe. It is worth noting that independent studies have confirmed that the Gain 2 Ultra Analog system can unveil sonic information all the way up to 122 kilohertz. First and foremost, we only utilize first-generation original master recordings as source material for our releases. Our lacquers are then plated in a specialized process that protects transients in the music signal. Due to this process, there may be occasional pops or ticks inherent in the initial playback. But as the disc is played more, a high-quality stylus will actually polish the grooves and improve the sound. We further ensure optimum sound quality by strictly limiting the number of pressings printed for each release. These limited editions, in addition to being collector's items, ensure that the quality of the last pressing matches the quality of the first. From the website, currently up, Mobile Fidelity website, MFSL engineers begin with the original master tapes and meticulously cut a set of lacquers. That is the description of their cutting process. So these two separate descriptions of the Gain 2 Ultra Analog system and just the general description from their website. Nowhere in this is digital anywhere implied. They go into depth on the cutting system of all the analog equipment they have in their cutting system and never mention digital. Now, it'd be one thing if they were just very vague and obtuse. However, here, they are giving you a step-by-step breakdown of everything in the process aside from copying the master tape to a DSD file. Aside from that. So they're skipping a step in their description here. Now, they're not saying in any of this exactly that they are cutting directly from tape. But if you say, we begin with the original master tapes and meticulously cut a set of lacquers, what is that implying? It's vague enough, but it's not. It implies heavily enough, I think, that if this were to end up in court, they would have a hard time arguing that this wasn't intentionally misleading. That's my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but that's my opinion. Now, in the video with Mike Esposito at MoFi, he asks about Santana Abraxas. The 33 RPM Mobile Fidelity Abraxas, Sean Britton was the mastering engineer on that. He asked Sean directly if that record was cut from DSD, and Sean says yes, absolutely it was.
Was there a difference? Do you remember if the original was done DSD? The 33?
Oh yeah.
The 33 was done DSD.
Pretty sure it was.
It was.
We're going back to 2008 there. I can't remember. I know you worked on it, but
Pretty sure.
This is 2008. So we have, unless he was wrong, we have DSD cutting going back as far as 2008. Now, I don't have that particular copy of Abraxas here with me in this apartment. However, I do have another Mobile Fidelity record from the same year, 2008. This is Faith No More's Angel Dust. This is an incredible record from one of the best bands of the 90s, and it is an incredible pressing. I think this record sounds outstanding. Now, I do not know if this was cut from the original analog tapes or if this was cut using DSD. There's no way to know that unless we were to ask Mobile Fidelity directly, and they're being pretty tight-lipped. However, I will read to you from the inner sleeve that comes with this record, The Art and Science of Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs. Here, they are still talking about the Gain 2 Ultra Analog System. Gain 2 Ultra Analog System is a proprietary cutting system designed and hand-built by England's legendary audio electronics genius Tim de Paravinci, with consultation from one of Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab's founding fathers, Stan Ricker, an audio engineer responsible for many of our most heralded past releases. The Gain 2 Ultra Analog System is comprised of a highly modified Studer A80 tape machine with proprietary reproducer electronics, customized cutting electronics, and amplifiers driving an Ortofon cutting head on a restored Neumann lathe. Our technique over here. First and foremost, we only utilize original masters as a source material for our releases. The master is played back at half speed, allowing the maximum amount of information to be extracted by the tape machine. At half speed, the cutting amplifiers use 1/3 to 1/2 the amount of power, thereby running cooler, lower distortion, and achieving greater transient response. Also, our half-speed technique provides the cutter head twice as much time to direct cut the complex groove into the master lacquer. Giving the cutting head more time, detailed cutting accuracy is substantially improved. So they just gave another description here of their cutting process. The master tape is played back at half speed, allowing the maximum amount of information to be extracted by the tape machine. At half speed, the cutting amplifiers use 1/3 to 1/2 the amount of power. This basically almost spells out an analog cutting. If they're trying to say that this doesn't imply analog cutting here, I'm sorry, they're full of shit. Now, they could wiggle around it, but they are basically implying that they are running the tape machine to a cutting head. Now, see, here's the thing though. I do not know if this record, Angel Dust, was cut like they imply here, with the tape machine running in the cutting head, or if it was done DSD. We don't know this, because they didn't say anything about this release. But this is from 2008, just like the Santana Abraxas that they confirmed in the video was DSD. Now, look at the records advertised on this page, The Art and Science of Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. Look at the records advertised here. Do you notice one? Do you notice Abraxas right here? Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I did look at some other inners. of other MoFi releases that came later, and they did change the wording. Here we have this year's model, Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Original master recording. This is from 2010. Again, I think this record sounds excellent. I have no complaints about the work done to produce this record. It's fantastic, but let's look at how they advertise it. So this is 2 years later. Here we have a different looking inner sleeve. Some of the same records advertised here, but it's a slightly different catalog, but the technique. Our original master recordings only utilize actual original masters as source material. The master is played back through our custom electronics to extract the maximum amount of information. Due to the specialized plating process employed, occasional pop-through ticks may be present in initial playback, but as the disc is played, a high-quality stylus will actually polish the groove walls, etc., etc. Our technology, Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab, is the undisputed leader in the science of record technology. Audiophiles and serious music collectors the world over have enormous respect for our contributions to the analog disc. Self-aggrandizing a little bit. The Gain 2 Ultra Analog System is our latest innovation. It is a proprietary cutting system designed and hand-built, very similar wording here to the last one. The Gain 2 Ultra Analog System is comprised of a highly modified Studer A80 tape machine with proprietary electronics. What are the proprietary electronics? And a highly sophisticated cutting system with custom amplification to drive an Ortofon cutting head on a beautifully restored Neumann lathe. It's a little different. This insert implies analog cutting to a far less degree. It's much more vague. So there was a conscious decision to change the wording of the advertisement, of the inner pamphlet, so that they weren't as heavily implying analog cutting, an all analog system. So they knew what they were doing, I'm pretty sure. The marketing people knew what they were doing. They wanted to be as vague as possible, I think. But all of these changes were made without any announcement, without any formal recognition of anything changing, because look, they're still advertising the Gain 2 Ultra Analog System trademark. It's the same system that's advertised in that previous pamphlet. So why should the consumer think anything's changed if they're advertising the same proprietary system? That's messed up. So I was trying to do as much online research as I could today to try to figure out how much advertising out there on the internet was claiming that Mobile Fidelity were cutting all analog. Funny enough, everyone's kind of been beating on Michael Fremer for this controversy because he's been talking about it a lot and saying, oh, well, you were implying that everything was analog. You said you could hear the difference, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Funny enough, a lot of the recent MoFis, Michael Fremer has said other versions have sounded better. I mean, this Love Forever Changes, this is the Rhino version that was cut by Chris Bellman, confirmed from the original master tape. Michael Fremer said he preferred this version to the MoFi, and he talked about why. Now, he didn't know the MoFi was not cutting all analog, but I looked at the Analog Planet record reviews where he covered MoFi, and there's hardly any, there's never really a direct claim that this is all analog. He only restates what the manufacturer states, what Music Direct and what MoFi say. So he's pretty careful about that. And as a journalist, I understand that, because when I'm going through the specs of something, I never want to overstate a claim. And if I'm unsure about something, I will contact them. But it seems like every journalist who's contacted MoFi in writing, they've been given the runaround. But I have an article here from CNET, from Steve Guttenberg, the audiophiliac, back when he was writing for CNET, April 29th, 2010. I have it here on my laptop, and I'll read it out to you. It's a profile of Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs, and he's interviewing Rob Laverda, one of the mastering engineers that was in the video with Mike. From the article, this is a direct quote. I recently chatted with Rob Laverda, one of Mobile Fidelity's mastering engineers, about how the company's remasters differ from the original label's product. First and foremost, he said, that every MoFi LP, which was originally recorded to analog, is cut from an analog master tape. That's interesting because ever since digital came onto the scene, most probably about 99% of LPs for sale now are cut from digital masters. So unless you are already buying MoFi LPs, you still haven't heard what a pure analog recording sounds like. Older LPs pressed before the 1980s are all analog. This is a quote from the article. This is from 2010, and it's Steve Guttenberg interviewing Rob Laverde, one of the mastering engineers in that video that's working for MoFi. So in 2010, Rob Laverde is giving interviews saying that all Mobile Fidelity albums are all analog. Now, someone here is wrong. It's either Steve Guttenberg is misquoting Rob Laverde is wrong in this article, or Rob Laverde on the video with Mike Esposito was incorrect in saying that the 2008 Mobile Fidelity Santana Abraxas cut was from DSD. One of these three things here is wrong. And I have no information to be able to tell you which one it is, but if it was Sean Britton, actually. Sean Britton in the video, who's the one that mastered it, says that that's from DSD. If he's right, then they lied in this interview. If everything is represented as I have it here, Rob Laverde lied in this interview from 2010. And it's these press interviews, these press things, these bits of information we have that people doing press releases and things like that will turn to say, oh, okay, so they are doing all analog. And Mobile Fidelity never issued a correction to any of this. They never came out and said what their system was when they made the change. They made a big change into their mastering chain. They slightly changed their wording, and they didn't tell anyone. And then whenever someone would ask them directly via writing, they gave them even more vague wording and a runaround. So Michael Fremer was talking about in his conversation with Michael 45 RPM that he sent Mobile Fidelity a written request for information on the rumors about the one-step thriller. So this is what Michael Fremer says. He says that Mobile Fidelity / Music Direct, probably Music Direct, wrote him back and said, no, the records, the one-steps are not cut from digital files, they are cut from copies of the master tape. That's what they told him, according to Michael Fremer. And that they were going to do a big press release after Munich. Well, Munich came and went, and there's no press release. There's been no press release. It's only this public outrage that has gotten Music Direct, Mobile Fidelity to do anything. So this is kind of all the information I was able to dig up in a morning. And you know, it's really sad because a lot of these MoFi releases I really love. I really love some of them. Now let's look at the wording of the one steps. Let's look at the promo material in these. I have Janis Joplin Pearl here. It's a good sounding album. It really is. Now, so I'm looking through this box set. I'm looking at this one-step pamphlet here, and you know, I can see now, in hindsight, I can see how coy they're being. We have here original master recording, and you see some little reel tapes, but they don't say original master tape. And then that goes to the lacquer. They have a picture of tapes. They have a picture of the tapes, but they say original master recording. Now here, look at the booklet. They have this beautiful booklet in here for the Janis Joplin Pearl, and they have pictures of the master tapes and the cutting notes. You know, lots of reissues now that are cut from digital files use scans of the original master tape. Those reissues aren't putting in pictures of the master tape in their promotional materials, because the implication traditionally in the industry when that's been done is we're cutting from these tapes. They don't come right out and say it, but they give you enough implications that people will extrapolate and people will just say, oh, this is from the tapes. So what does this mean? And what do I think about it? I think Mobile Fidelity, well, I should say, I think Music Direct, the people in charge of marketing at Music Direct have been playing this game where they do everything to imply that these are AAA recordings, AAA records, without coming out and saying it. And I think that is dishonesty. They're not technically, legally lying, although if what Michael Fremer says is true, they did lie to him in an email. They did directly lie, not to his face, but in writing to him, they lied. But in the promotional materials, they're not technically lying, but they're being misleading. And the fact that they still claim that they're using the Gain 2 Ultra analog system that they used to describe as using that system to cut from the original tapes, running the tape machine to the cutting lathe. They used to advertise that up until at least 2008, possibly 2009, and then changed their wording ever so slightly and didn't ever do a press release about it, didn't ever be upfront about it, didn't say these are done from DSD files. I think that's egregious dishonesty. If my fact finding about the timeline of this stuff is true, and in that interview they're right about the Santana Abraxas 2008 record being cut from DSD files, and they were advertising in 2008 that in 2008 and in 2010 they were giving interviews saying we only cut from the analog tape, then that's not dishonesty. They were lying. And they went from lying to, okay, we're going to be a little more vague and just, imply. This just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. I think they're making good records. These mastering engineers are doing good work. And that should be all that matters, but because they weren't honest, it's going to hurt them. It does hurt them in my eyes. I think less of this company, not because of the way they master, but because of the way they market. And this company is Music Direct, one of the largest high-end audio retailers in the world. They've been playing games with their consumers. And I don't think that's right. And it's sad because I enjoy some of these records. Not all of them. I mean, I have the Marvin Gaye One Step, and I thought it was amazing. And then I heard this Kevin Gray cut, which is cut from the master, from the tape, all analog. And I think this sounds better. Now, it's not always the case. Sometimes, many times, the MoFis are the best sounding ones even compared to analog, all analog versions. Because this isn't religion, this is about, what gets the best result. But oftentimes the best result is from analog. And that's been a guideline, I think, that has guided audiophile record buyers for a long time. And that's what helped MoFi with their sales. That assumption fed into this idea that, when possible, it's better if it's all analog. And so collectors were willing to follow that guideline and buy into Mobile Fidelity's products, even as their prices increased, even as they became more limited, even as the prices went crazy on the secondary market. They really took advantage of that. And they never, ever, ever, they're very detailed about all the other stuff in their process except the digital. So this is not a, we just didn't think about that. They were doing this on purpose. That's my assessment. They were doing it on purpose. I'm going to enjoy the MoFis that I have. I think they're well-made records. And I feel kind of bad for these mastering engineers that were put in this position because something tells me this was not their idea to be misleading about this. I think this is marketing. As hard as that interview was to watch, because I could tell they were kind of dodging the questions, I don't think most of the blame lies in them. I think most of the blame lies in Music Direct. I think they've really betrayed consumer trust here. And as someone that's I've spent thousands of dollars at Music Direct, and I don't know. I'm going to have to think about if I'm going to continue with that, if I'm going to continue buying Mobile Fidelity records. I don't know right now. I know definitely in the future, I bought my subwoofer from Music Direct. I didn't buy it from Rel, I bought it from Music Direct because I had a relationship with them. Because I could talk to someone on the phone and talk to them about my system. And I don't know if I want to do business with a company that operates like. I'm going to have to think about that. I don't know. It's not fuck Music Direct, I'm going to boycott them. I don't know. I think we're gonna hopefully learn more in the coming weeks, is my guess, because I don't think a company like this can just sit by when the shit is flying, so to speak. So I don't have any answers. All I can say is I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that a company would treat their consumers and their community like this, because that's what I'm really upset about. I don't care if it's mastered from digital. I mean, I like the idea of an all analog chain. Certainly, companies that do that get great results, and they make products that they can be proud of. And Mobile Fidelity makes a product that they should have been able to be proud of, but instead they were disingenuous. That's the only way I can describe it. So I think that's all I have to say on this. The dishonesty is insulting. If I'm going to be buying super limited releases of albums, and I have a choice between a company like Analog Productions that isn't playing these games, Chad Kassem is a character, but for all of that, he is very upfront. He showed pictures and videos of these records being cut. He's been very, very, very thorough in describing the processes that these records go through, and which records have what issues with the tapes or anything like that. And if I'm gonna, if I have the choice, I think I'm gonna spend my money there, because why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I go for a company that doesn't lie to me versus a company that's willing to do everything but, basically lie? This is basically lying. It's not directly lying. It's not lying in a legal sense, but it's, I think when you put all the facts out there, that's the only conclusion I can have, is that we've been lied to. With that, leave a comment down below, leave a like if you found this interesting, or if I brought something new to the many, many videos about this topic, which I'm sure you've watched. And I guess I'll see you next time. Cheers, VC.
Why don't we talk a little bit about the Gain 2 Ultra Analog system, which is the system that we use in the LP cutting room.
Well, some people ask us questions like, is it an all analog mastering chain? It is. We have a Studer preview machine, and without being too technical, that means that there's two heads. The preview signal goes to a pitch and depth computer, which spaces the grooves correctly so that you don't overcut. And of course, that means that there's two signal paths that are exact, and that can include Dolby processing, equalization, through our custom-made console. And our cutting system is completely built and designed by Tim DePeravicini of EAR/Yoshino Electronics. There's no system like it on the planet. We have crazy frequency response. I've cut in excess of 60 kilohertz to our lathe at half speed, mind you. But it's an honor to be able to work on a system of that capability.
Indeed.